Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Sacred Nectar podcast. I am on episode 7 now. And thank you so much for listening. This is quite a journey for me. This episode is a conversation I had with Melissa Murray of littlegreendot.com. And I love her work. She is a skincare herbalist. So she works with our largest organ, the skin, and herbs. And I have adored her for many years and so appreciated her work. And so I set up an interview with her and really enjoyed the time that I spent with her. When I recorded the interview with her, the conversation, I was pregnant, and I am, at the time of edit and release, no longer pregnant. So I had quite a transition that I went through, and that is why there was a delay in getting this to you all, dear listeners. But I hope you really enjoy this podcast, and once again, thank you for listening. Let's dive in.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Sacred Nectar podcast. I have Melissa Murray today. She is such an inspiration when it comes to caring for your being and skincare. Her journey is so beautiful and wonderful, and I am so excited and honored to have her here with all of us to just ingest her wisdom and about her journey and hopefully inspire you to also think deeper and go a little further in how you care for yourself. So welcome, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Patricia. It's such a joy to be able to share on something that I'm so passionate about.
Yay. So I found you I don't know, forever ago when I was on the Instagram and just came across you and loved your work. I got so excited about this tangible experience of food on your face and on your skin and just being in touch in community with the elements in a different way, a much different way to experience them, not just internally, but externally, and to feel their goodness in a very tangible, almost sensual way, because this is also part of our being. And so, when I found you, I just got super excited and loved your work and got some friends together. And we put food all over our faces, seaweed, all sorts of stuff. And as a mother, I have returned to your work so often and just been so encouraged in how to care for myself and care for my loved ones. So share about you and what you do and your journey and how it started for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think today I would say my day is mostly spent teaching about natural skincare or writing, kind of new classes and writing books on natural skincare as well. And the way that it started was really from a place of a complete beginner. And it wasn't an kind of an industry or a topic that I was ever really involved in until I had my babies. And what happened was that at the time I lived in Singapore. And so we were in Singapore for a total of 15 years, and my girls were born there. And I had a 3-year-old daughter at the time and a newborn little baby. And this was around 2010-ish. And that's when this article came out in the paper that I read that said that there was some questionable ingredients in Johnson & Johnson. And the thing is that was the brand that I had used exclusively on my daughter, right? Because it's the brand that I knew and everybody knows it. And, I feel like Johnson & Johnson for me was the smell of a baby. That's how babies smell, right?
Yes.
And so that's all I use. And so when I read that news, I was just kind of really confused. And I just went, well, what does it mean? At the same time, I really understood and prioritize, making food from scratch and trying to eat whole foods and eat well. I loved it too. Like I loved being in the kitchen. I loved making all the, little baby foods and all that kind of stuff. But I'd never considered skincare, and I didn't understand either what it meant, when they said that there was, kind of these questions about it. So I tried to educate myself, and I tried to go online and, figure out how to, type up these complicated, chemical ingredients and understand what they were. And that just led to more frustration and confusion because I couldn't, it was like I couldn't read this language. And so what ended up happening was that then I learned about the fact that, natural products are supposed to be better because they lack these ingredients. So I was like, great, get me those then. And so I went to the health food store to buy natural baby care products. And I realized immediately that I wasn't going to be able to afford them,
Yes.
It wasn't going to be an everyday option for me.
Right.
And so I think it was in that moment of frustration where I'm going, okay, so my only choice is to continue using a brand that I've just found out is possibly bad for my babies, or to what, go broke trying to afford better options. And something just kind of clicked where I just went, can you make it? Right? If there's such simple ingredients, like, are you able to make your own skincare? It was really a world that I knew nothing about. So I just started just asking a lot of questions and getting really curious. And I would read like what ingredients are in baby care products, and finally I found this one brand, and the brand is still out there. And there was this one product that it was called a baby bathtub tea. And the ingredients were it was oatmeal or rolled oats, it said, cocoa butter, chamomile, flowers, and lavender flowers. And I was like, that's an ingredient list, right? If it was a recipe, those are just ingredients. So can I put that together myself?
Right.
And I did. I went out and I gathered the ingredients. For the tea, I just got herbal tea, like chamomile tea that you drink, and ripped open the tea bags, and just kind of got a bowl and started blending everything together. And I tried to make it look like in the picture. And then that night I ran my baby's bath water and put in this bathtub tea. And immediately it just starts kind of releasing this oat milk into the water. And I can feel that it feels creamy because of the cocoa butter. And it just smelled so fresh and natural and and I was amazed. And I put my baby in, and, her skin just felt so soft. And like coated in this yumminess. And I was like, oh my goodness, and I was like, what does this mean? Like, I can make this more. I could bathe them in this every day. I don't have to worry about it. And it was just like, it was so exciting. And again, I got really curious, like, okay, so why oats in the bath? Like, what is it doing? Got really curious and asking lots of questions and doing lots of little research on the internet. And that went on for a really good while, Yes. And I started trying to make different, looking for products out there that had ingredients that I could find. And at the time, there was like no Amazon that I could order any kind of ingredient I wanted. Like I could only use ingredients I had access to. That meant that was in a supermarket, And so I was very limited to what I could use. But that was actually great, because what that meant was that I was able to focus on a few simple ingredients and just get really good at putting them together to create different types of recipes, And so I started making bathtub teas for the baby. I was massaging them in plant oils, like just vegetable oils from the supermarket.
Yeah.
And then I started making body scrubs for myself, and, at a time when I couldn't afford these beautiful natural products in stores, I was at home bathing in like like coconut milk bath. Like it was this amazing time in my life.
Yes.
I was like Mother Nature with my baby, and we're like in a bath of petals. Like I was feeling amazing. And so it just really fed this passion in me. I became so interested in this whole world. And I got another wild idea. I was like, maybe I should teach people to do this, and started hosting classes, even though I had never wanted to like stand up and talk to a group of people. I felt so driven to do this because it just felt like, these recipes are just have maybe, yeah, I mean, I don't want to say life changing, but it enhanced my life in so many ways.
Yeah.
It solved the problem that I had. So I started teaching. And that went on I've been teaching now for 10 years. So I haven't stopped,
Yes.
And I'm still so curious and there's still so much to learn. It's just the best,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Your journey is, woven right into motherhood. And that's something that I'm always thinking about. And, it's expanding me. I just said to somebody today, our children call us out of our comfort zone to grow.
Yes.
And, and it's totally what happened for you. And it gave you your life passion essentially now, because of course you wanted the best for your children. And you wanted to make sure that they were, not taking in toxic things. And something that, is not very well known is even in pregnancy, our children can, there's studies that say, babies can taste what the mama puts on her skin. Yeah. And they, of course, receive this through our bodies, even if they couldn't taste it. But, if they can taste it, well then, have you ever tasted your skincare? Do you know what it tastes like? It's just a thought like that follows that line, like, well, what is my baby experiencing inside of me? And, are we, aware? I think so often, even in the clean beauty skincare realm, like the industrialized version of clean beauty is, so many other little things that aren't, they're still really highly processed stuff. Mm-hmm. They leave wanting. They stop at a point. Like they're good for this or that, but there's like a wall that they cannot pass because there's like this missing element of connection directly with the nature aspect, like connecting with our elements in another form. And so, it's really important to, I think, understand these basic things. And I love how the questions just kept coming and coming and coming. And they're still, I'm sure, coming, and you're just finding those answers and exploring through this. Tell me about your work in Bali as you learned more about the depths of skincare. So tell me about that part of the journey.
Yeah. So, we were in Singapore for 15 years. And at that point I was, teaching my classes, and, we decided as a family that we wanted to kind of move to Bali, and it was just going to be for a year. Well, we ended up being there for 2. And so there's a school there called the Green School. And, we really wanted to have that experience and for the kids to have that connection to nature as well. So we went from the city to Bali, which was wild. But I got so lucky because I was able to meet, 2 skincare makers in Bali who create what are some of the most well-known kind of, skincare brands in Bali. Right. And, these amazing, amazing women, and they really just openly and generously shared so much with me. And, I learned, so much more about skincare, not just in terms of these amazing recipes that they kind of taught me how to make, but a different meaning behind it all. See, because until that point, I was still making skincare very much attached to the skincare world and the beauty world. So I was using the same language. I was reading from the packets of, the products, looking at the ingredients that they're using, and just kind of like, it was all about that world. Mm-hmm. Recreating products that I saw on shelves and, that kind of thing. When I went to Bali, it was like, it wasn't at all about trying to, it wasn't even about that at all. It had so much more depth. There was the connection to nature. It was working with these amazing ingredients. It was the history and the story, the traditions, of, the recipes and rituals, Mm-hmm. It really deepened and broadened my work in so many ways, because it also taught me about connection to yourself. It's funny because looking back, I can see how I really went from someone who was really unsure, really insecure, you know,
Mm-hmm.
um, and developed this ability to just kind of be able to kind of share my work and my passion. And I think what really got me there, honestly, was this skincare journey that I was on. Because, and now that I've, studied so much more, I understand, but it's because of this connection to this amazing organ, our skin,
Yeah.
which is a sense organ,
Mm-hmm.
right? It is lined in nerves and it's connected to our inner nervous system.
Yes.
So when I'm like massaging these incredible, oils onto my body and on my baby and taking baths, I'm literally sending messages of well-being to my nervous system.
Yes.
I was grounding myself and strengthening my immune system. Like I was just really like doing all that amazing work, right?
Yes.
Without realizing it. So I felt a shift that it had created in me.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't understand why. And when I started learning from, my teacher, she wouldn't call herself an herbalist, but she was an herbalist because she worked with herbs
Yes.
for well-being. And so, I really learned about that connection to yourself. I really learned about the importance of that self-care and how it changes the way that you feel and in the world, the way that you feel in the world, and it was so powerful. And I just feel like the more that I kind of dug into this world of skincare, I really kind of completely departed from the message of skincare that we've always known, I feel like everything that we know about our skin and that we has been taught to us by an industry, that sells us the product that we need, right?
Right.
Learning about your skin by learning about yourself is a really empowering journey that it's taken. So that's been really the journey that I've been on. Is kind of relearning about skincare.
Yeah.
Unlearning so much of what the beauty world taught us.
Yes. Yeah. There's such a different, a paradigm view of skincare when you're coming at it from your center, from you, as opposed to information outside of you telling you about how to care for you. And there's just this huge shift. Our skin is our largest organ.
Mm-hmm.
And that in a way, I mean, if you think about all of the environmental factors, can be scary. But to me, it's more fuel for, investing in yourself, in the elements of nature and taking care of yourself from this standpoint of like, I am nature. I should connect with nature. And even just the way, I mean, you said you were working with plants, and I'm sure that you know this, like even the different energies and the personalities of the plants and what they bring into this recipe, just their personal natures, adding to the energy that my being is supposed to receive right now, right here. It's really a beautiful intersection. And I'm sure in Bali, you were accessing stuff that you had probably, or your teachers had probably grown, which,
Yeah.
shows you a whole nother elemental aspect of these plants, and how they impact us, absorbing the sun and translating that into energy. And yeah, it's really, really beautiful when you get to experience nature so tangibly on your skin like this. And it does, like you said, it opens you up to feel your own power and your own sense of purpose, when you get to connect with the elements like this.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think nature is just an amazing teacher, and nature teaches you about yourself.
Yes.
And so spending a lot of time with nature, really, you learn so much about yourself. And I was really able to start to learn, to notice my body's messages. I think what I'm so fascinated about the skin, and and why, kind of, I started learning about making skincare, but then it progressed to learning about the plants, right? And learning about herbalism and also learning about the skin and the anatomy and the physiology. And, it's wildly fascinating. And the skin is this most incredible organ that I think that we have. I think that because we've been kind of so focused on what we learn from the beauty world, it's always the surface level, right?
Yes.
But our skin is completely interconnected with all of the systems within.
Yes.
So it's directly linked to your nervous system, right?
Yes.
It's also linked, to the blood and the flow, right?
Yeah, your interstitium, right, lives in your, and that's like the super highway for all the information to every organ.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so not only are you receiving so much from your skin, like you can receive actual insights as to what your body needs, right?
Yes.
It's very empowering because you're learning to listen, and then you're, understanding and learning to respond.
Honoring,
right?
yes.
And so, when you get kind of good at that, it really changes your life because all of a sudden you understand, how to change the way that you feel, how to help yourself, and my skincare practice has just become, it continues to be my favorite self-care practice of all, right?
Yeah.
And I love that sensorial experience as well.
Yeah, this is, it's so important to understand this little piece. I think when it comes to looking at skincare is that it does connect with every little part of our bodies. Our guts are affected by what we put on our skin. Our heart is connected. And I mean, even something so simple, if you just think about it really simplistically, like you walk outside, your skin detects whether or not it's cold or hot. This is important for your life. This is very important. If it's too hot, you maybe get a bottle of water or something. Yeah. If it's too cold, you need to have some kind of layers on. And just the information that our skin gives us is, I think, undernoticed and undervalued, but super essential.
Super essential. It's like, it just gives you another way to navigate the world too, when you really tune into the skin, because, it's receiving both ends, right?
Right.
It's inside and it's receiving what's in your outer world as well. So, it's fascinating to learn about it. And it's also something that's done really simply, right? And so it just begins with touch. Yes. And it was interesting to me as well, because I really realized how much I avoided even touching my own body, and certain parts of my body I would avoid.
Yeah.
And, I started to notice that, right? Because all of a sudden I started to pay attention how I felt uncomfortable if I would touch a certain part of my body that I was kind of maybe feeling insecure about, And I was able to just feel that moment and go, okay, that's interesting. And I could also shift it, and I could just send a different message, and just kind of sit there with the beautiful, like an oil. I could say, okay, I'm feeling a little insecure. All right. And so maybe I, can incorporate some herbs that I think about for kind of shifting the way I feel, right? So maybe I'll start using more rose and just like, just kind of bringing in things that kind of to me represent that self-love. And all of a sudden I start feeling very different, Yes. And I think it's a really powerful thing that we can do. And it's something that we do every day. And I'm, in your shower, right? Yes. So it's just been, I think most of this journey really has been a journey of just like really curiosity and tuning in and noticing. And as I've gone further along the journey, I've shed so much of what I thought that we needed. It's like, I feel like I started with a backpack, like full of my essentials. Like I need all these stuff, right? And I'm emptying it up now, and it's like, I'm down to nothing, right? Yeah. And when it comes to skincare, that's really what I've learned, is that what the skin actually needs is very little, like, very little. So I almost feel like, I used to feel like kind of guilty thinking that, my recipes or my message was too simplistic, it can't possibly work, right? Like, right. It's too simple. Like, but really it has been the most transformative thing. And I've worked with, I would say, hundreds of people over the course of 10 years, teaching these recipes that I've learned from amazing teachers, that I've learned from like at home playing around, through my own research. and coming up with my own kind of ideas and perspectives. And I share these recipes, and, people are experiencing, transformations in their skin. And on one hand, they want to really like go, wow, this really worked. And like, this ingredient really worked. But I also want to remind them that it's also because you're not using the other stuff, right?
Yes.
Like,
right.
All the other products that we think we're supposed to be using.
Yeah.
Actually, reducing that is the first major thing that you could do for your skin, because it really just lets it do its job finally, right?
Right.
Because it has to process all these ingredients. It has to do something with all the information that you're putting on it, with all the different, products, right? When you stop doing that, it's like it finally has the space and the ability to now work on what it needs to work on, its own function, right? Yes. I think the focus really is on this relationship of self-nourishment. And it's not so dissimilar to food, right? Everyone's a little bit different in terms of what makes you feel your best, possibly.
Right.
Essentially, it's the same, right? Like, whole foods, right? But everyone's a little bit different. So it's about learning what foods make you feel your best. It's also kind of similar as well, kind of learning about externally what kind of skincare could make you, helps your body the best and what you need.
I think is really important, because it is about, so much of it is about minimizing. We think, and from the beauty industry's standards, we have to put this on and that on and do this wash and that wash and all these different things. And the reality is our skin does not want that.
No.
And it's not happy.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think a lot of times when people are experiencing, dry skin or oily skin or whatever, it's just because their ingredients that they have are, that they're using on their body are creating this, not because it's a body thing.
Yeah.
But
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about how you've mentioned your children, and I was thinking, how has this changed their lives? And do they still practice what you have taught them in a way? So I'm just curious about that.
So I have a 15 and a 12-year-old, right?
Okay.
And so when they were very little, they loved bath time, because I would have all the ingredients in, like, my different ingredients in jars. I had it in my living room. Like, it was my decor, right?
Why not?
I know. And it was just the most fun, because for bath time, we would put together a bath time tea, right? Mm-hmm. Or bath time, and they loved it, right? So it's scooping out different ingredients into a bowl, putting in a little bag and adding it to their bath. And they loved bath time. They loved the whole thing. As they got older, right, they started to become more interested in other, products, right? And so that's quite natural. But what I still have all of my ingredients out in a cart, and I just try not to make a big push of it. I just have it available, and I use these herbs every single day for myself, and I'm constantly incorporating into my own routines. And what I saw last year with my daughter was pretty amazing. She was having a bit of a tough time. We just moved, new school, the whole thing. And I started noticing that she would come home and she wanted to take baths. And, it was like, yeah, go for a bath.
So precious.
Right. And then the next thing, I know they're like, oh, I'm going to take some rose and put some rose in my bath. I was like, oh, yeah, great idea. That would be lovely. So I started realizing then they started wanting to put rose in their bath by themselves. Like, this was like their own, and so I was like, oh, yeah, great idea. Rose in the bath would be lovely. And I stood there stunned, because during a time of, like, when they're going through something really tough, or just a tough time that we all have, what she was drawn to was really wanting to be in the comfort of that warm water, right? And the instinct to incorporate rose into it, rose really has a strong affinity for the heart. It's an affinity for our nervous system as well. It's an aromatic nervine. It actually helps your nervous system, especially in the way that it responds to stress.
Yeah.
So I just was like, it's just amazing how intuitively, when you listen to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And how to take care of yourself, that was like, I was like, okay, job done. Like,
Yes.
know how to take care of yourself is an invaluable skill, right?
That's so precious. Yeah, she internally orientated to the, like this mother element of water and this its ability to release the volatile oils of the rose and whatnot into an infusion for her body.
Absolutely.
So powerful. That is and I'm sure like as a mother, you were like, oh.
Yeah, I know. We're just kind of hoping we're planting seeds. You know what I mean?
Right.
We don't know what's gonna grow, what's not, what's gonna take, what's not.
Yeah.
So when you do see that, it's very special. And honestly, that is the whole thing for me, is that, I turn to skincare for self-care.
Yes.
And that's like the difference in the relationship with skincare. I also it's the same with food. Like, if I certainly had been through phases in my life where I was really concerned about my appearance and wanting to be a certain size, or, then it wanted to be really healthy. But when you eat and nourish yourself from a point of view of almost fear, like you're, a lack or want, like I really, oh my, I need to be healthy, or I need to,
Yes.
it doesn't feel the same as when you have a relationship with food in a way that's like nourishment, right?
Yeah.
Like it feels good. You enjoy the way that feels. You enjoy the colors, the smell, the taste. I think that nourishes more of you, and physically, emotionally, mentally. That joy. I really treat skincare as just another form of nourishment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think that it's one of the missing elements of nourishment in our society, which, yeah, this part that you just touched on of coming at it from a space of love, like how we care, how we even eat, anything that we put into our space, is it from a space of love? And that changes the whole dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I noticed it as well in my skincare. Once I started down this path, I started paying attention, and I realized that all the products I use, all the products I would buy and use, they all signaled my insecurities, right? Like,
yes.
Anti-wrinkle, anti-aging, and so, I'm thinking, I just have this message of these insecurities. It's like the opposite of like when you speak, positive affirmations. It was like negative affirmations.
Right.
And I was like, wow, every single day I'm just putting these things that are, affirming these negative views that I have. And it has shifted. And I think this is the first step, right? I think was just that kind of shift in mindset that happened. But once you have that shift where all of a sudden it's like, okay, I mean, I can nourish my skin, right? Like, I can make skincare. Like, that's usually the hard hurdle for people to jump over, right?
Yes.
But once you take that step, it opens up an entire world. And this is like, I have not gotten bored, because there's so much to learn about the plants.
Yes.
Everything we're talking about is absolutely nothing new, right?
No, right.
Like, about like the history, the traditions, like how these plants have been used externally, how actually skincare was a practice of healthcare,
yes.
right? And like all these things that we know about, for example, Cleopatra and her famous eye makeup, right?
Mm-hmm.
That she really, I guess, made, kind of famous, that kohl eyeliner.
Yes.
In Egyptian times. Well, everyday people also wore kohl eyeliner around their eyes, because it protected their eyes from infection from the, Nile River. And there was all of these, bacteria that could infect and cause blindness.
Yeah.
So they made this paste of resins and herbs, right?
Yes.
And would paint it on their eyes to protect, from these infections. And so really skincare was rooted in health and wellness. It was rooted in, beauty and celebrating beauty and, in a different way. Right.
Right.
So I love returning back to that.
Yeah.
And, really delving into the plants and learning about how they support the skin and therefore the body, when applied externally. So that is that is like my joy. Is like it's so fun sharing about these different ingredients and their benefits and how they can be used.
Yeah. One of the things that brought to mind about the history of just beauty care and self-care and how it was woven into the different cultures, years ago, in my journey and life journey, I have fallen in love with, Korean, the language and the culture and different things about their history. And one of the things that I learned that was really, I think there's like a special day, and I can't remember the name of it, but in the year, so like they honor the seasons and whatnot, and on a certain moon, or maybe it was every moon, I may have gotten it wrong, but I think it was specifically when the peach blossoms came. Mm-hmm. I think there's a painting about it actually. The women would make an herbal bath for their hair, and they would all come together and by moonlight care for their hair. And just this, this basic, like, talk about nourishment. Just that scene brings so much nourishment to a female body. Like, you have community, you're taking care of your hair, you're under the moonlight, you have your herbs. I mean, just the rich scene and energy that would infuse into one's soul.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be on a high for weeks.
I mean, describes getting together with your girlfriends and making these herbal masks and putting it together. Nature, food, it's nourishment, enjoyment. It's all,
Yes, it's all married together. Yeah. When we dissect it and pull it apart is when we start seeing this disassociation, like you were saying, like anti-wrinkle and whatever else, they have. Yeah. But alchemizing it right into our beings, coming from a place of within to nourish us is very essential. Yeah, I love your work. Actually, I was talking about the skin care or the hair care, and I just thought, I don't know, does your work also cover hair care? Because I have not checked that part out.
Yeah, I do. Hair from head to toe, definitely. And hair care was honestly like a longer journey too, because that's where I really got to learn a lot too about oils. And learning basically what oils work well for you, because that's something that I didn't recognize either, and just like, people have different types of hair, and could, benefit from different types of oil. Yeah. But when I think about hair, actually, one of the most fantastic things that I've ever tried are hair rinses, vinegar hair rinses.
Yes.
And it's important to dilute it because vinegar is far too acidic. Yes. But when it's diluted, which is, I think, a good, safe dilution is about 2 tablespoons of vinegar into 1 cup of water. When it's diluted, it actually, the pH of it matches what the pH of the skin is. And our skin is slightly acidic, and actually that is important to the health of the skin, right? And so a lot of times, some of the conditions that we see is a disruption of the skin's, pH or acid barrier, right? And a lot of times that's even the products that we're using. And sometimes it's even the natural products that we're using. So for example, in hair care, Castile soap would be thought of as a really beneficial soap to use because it's so clean. And in that regard, it definitely is. But it is very alkaline and far too much for the skin.
Yeah.
So it can actually disrupt the pH of the skin barrier and leave it more susceptible to damage. So what we want to do is kind of go the other way, right?
Yes.
And ingredients like vinegar are fantastic. Like if you do a vinegar hair rinse once a week, it improves the condition of the hair such that I don't need to use like did you ever get into like the clarifying shampoo? It's the shampoo that you buy that you only use once a week.
Yes. Clever.
They got us to buy a shampoo and a second shampoo for when the first shampoo is not working as well. Yes. It's just like, so yeah, a vinegar hair rinse. As I learned about the herbs, I really learned that certain herbs have beneficial constituents, right, for the hair. And vinegar, I don't know if you've ever heard of like a fire cider.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I reckon like a lot of people in your community may have heard of fire ciders as well.
Yeah.
Um, well, I started taking thinking about skincare as external herbal remedies.
Yes.
So you can essentially make a fire cider for your hair. You can infuse herbs into the vinegar, like lavender, like thyme, or peppermint, rosemary. You could infuse mineral-rich herbs like horsetail,
nettle. Yeah.
okay?
Yes.
And basically, you have the most incredible. When they talk about like they list out all of the active ingredients, hair care, forget about it. It's in this vinegar, right?
Yes.
and you just pour it over your hair very slowly. I find that like a squeegee bottle is actually best because I can do it very slowly, so it has optimal skin contact time.
Yeah.
And then rinse it out. It's lovely. I also realized that hydrosols, they're also naturally acidic, which is why they have such a long shelf life as compared to a brew like a tea or something, which would last 3 days. A hydrosol, floral water, lasts anywhere from 6 months to a year. So it's fantastic to have a hydrosol in your bathroom because you could use this on your skin, but also your hair. I find that spritzing my hair with a hydrosol, as like a midweek cleanse, just spritzing it in really just improves the condition of the scalp and therefore the hair as well. And it's so lovely too, because you could also use the hydrosol for your skin, so you're really minimizing the amount of stuff that you need.
Yes. Yeah. Some of my, different things that I have incorporated into my hair care specifically, I'll do like an infusion of nettle and rosemary and peppermint and do a rinse with that. And then I have an oil for hair that's like rosemary, nettle. I think there's pumpkin seed oil in it.
Yeah.
And that one's really rich. And so I do that on my scalp sometimes like once a week. I never thought to do like a herbal fire cider. I think that's such a good idea.
Cider for your skin. It gets wilder and wilder. Okay. So you can do a fire cider for your skin. So we're going to be using, obviously you could do, your fiery cayenne, but it's going to burn, right? You learn that quickly, but basically any herb that you would consume as tea, you can also use externally, right? Yes. It's good to know about the energetics of herbs, right? Because your hotter herbs are going to be maybe not ideal for hot skin conditions. So, red, inflamed skin conditions. Right. We might want to turn to our cooler anti-inflammatory herbs, right? So you start to see there's actually a connection when you start to think of it as your body, not just your skin.
Right.
We start to unlearn terms like oily skin, dry skin, normal skin, and start to think of it more as constitutional terms.
Yes.
So you can get quite specific as to what herbs could be beneficial for your constitution and your needs.
Right.
Okay. So you've made a fire cider and it has ingredients that are beneficial for you externally. You could also add to that fire cider honey, glycerin, and so you make it an oxymel, which is another herbalist term. It's another herbal remedy. But you could use this externally too,
Yeah.
It's wild because it has these incredible benefits that you would, I'm doing quotes, like you would want for skincare.
Right.
Glycerin is an incredible humectant. It's actually going to be helping to drive the liquid, the nourishment deeper into the tissues of the skin.
Right.
Honey as well. It just has so many incredible skin benefits. It's also a humectant.
Yeah.
So, it's helping to keep your skin calm, reduce inflammation while you're putting on these other herbs as well. So like my skincare has become really this food. I'm just like food. Okay. And I like making recipes that I think could actually be tasty as well. So if you are trying to incorporate, let's say like more, minerals. Like you like the idea of the horsetail. It's got that silica. It's good for your hair, right?
Yeah.
Nettles, all those important minerals and nutrients that you want. You know, if you're using externally and internally, that is ideal,
Yeah.
right? So when I make a skincare remedy that tastes good, I'm just like, that's the golden, like, that's the best.
Yes. Oh, that's so happy. And the nourishment level of that is just rich. I mean, just like you said, it's ideal to
Mm-hmm.
have what we're experiencing internally also externally. It gives all the elements of our being the information we need.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I remember when I went to herbal school, I was so lucky to have the best teachers because they knew when I went in with an intention. I was like, I want to learn the body in a holistic way. I understand that the skin is connected to, everything. And I want to understand that more, right? But my interest is in external use of herbs. My interest is in the skin, So they were so, so accommodating because with the lessons that they would teach about the internal uses of herbs, I was always like, okay, how does that apply externally? Like, does that, trying to understand. And I was really able to learn herbalism, applying things through this external perspective as well.
Yes.
And I had to piece it together because I couldn't find, who was teaching it that way.
Right.
I'm still, I'm sure there's so many people because my teachers in Bali were teaching it that way. Just it's, not officially, right? So even when I think about like what to call myself and what my work is, I'm still confused as what to call it. I say skincare herbalist, right? Because, but yeah, just kind of thinking of it all and, all of these preparations. Okay, tinctures, right?
Yeah.
Tinctures are made by mass. You're putting herbs into alcohol to extract out their constituents.
Mm-hmm.
Well, liniments are the external application of using an alcohol base, and like it's kind of old-fashioned medicine. Like it's like for muscle rubs, right? You rub a liniment. My grandfather used to use liniments for his hair to stimulate, right? So you're just using on one area of the body. So then I started to realize, well, tinctures are just liniments, right? So anytime I needed to apply these herbs externally and for this application, I could just, same concept, just thinking of it externally. And yeah, so it's really opened it up to all the potential things you can do.
Yes. I so love your work and appreciate your sharing. One of the things that I love to know about people and ask is what specific thing is most nourishing you right now? Or maybe it's a new venture or something else, but like what is sparking your happy space right now?
Yeah. I have been going on a really big personal journey. In a, we talk about kind of learning about yourself. I have recently learned about myself in terms of, I'm like trying to figure out how to say this. I'm still dealing with it a little bit, but I have been diagnosed in life with ADHD and with autism, right? And so what's been really interesting for me is for such a long time, just feeling like within myself that I had to present in a certain way. I had to do things in a certain way, or be like everybody else, or worried about this external constantly, right? Not that I was constantly worrying about it, but that's always the perspective.
Yes.
And now I'm getting to this place in my life where I'm learning more and more, where it's like, the more time that I allow myself to just do the things the ways that it makes sense for me, not the way that I think it's supposed to be done.
Yes.
The way that it makes sense for me, that it just works well for me.
Yes.
I can just do it that way, and it seems like such a simple thing, but it's kind of revolutionary right now. I just kind of feel like I'm 44. I figured out why I felt so different, and I'm not trying to be, I don't know, this image that I had in my mind of how I think I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
And that feels like such a relief. And it honestly feels like that another shedding of on my journey. I'm just constantly shedding, and I feel, that's just been so enjoyable for me. I think I love connecting with people, but the truth is, in my day, I love spending time outside with plants. That's like my happy place. A little bit of a loner, but that's okay. Like, I really enjoy it, and I feel not alone at all. I feel like I'm constantly in this learning, curious. There's always so much. So the more time I allow myself to be in my garden and like a kid, just like playing and being curious,
Yes.
the more lit up I feel. Yeah.
Yeah, this is actually so essential for I believe our human body beingness, just to connect with nature and to allow things that come up and just let them flow through. Yes.
Word, like, it's funny because in Bali, I met a spiritual person who kind of, told me, she's like, oh, your ancestors are telling me that you need to surrender. And I was like, surrender? Never. Allowing just feels uncomfortable because I don't know, it's a release of expectations, of control, of whatever you think you're supposed to do.
It's a vulnerability.
Yes. It's really not that easy. And it's taken me a while, a very long while. But I really think these routines that I've done daily of connecting with myself, I think like the plants so much, and what I've learned, all the amazing, generous teachers, that I've been lucky to work with. And I feel like the journey is just starting for me now. I'm like, okay.
Yes, that's so beautiful. I love your journey and that you are shedding and growing, and that's just so beautiful to me. I had an idea as you were telling it about maybe a future venture for you, and that could be to take people on an herbal walk to gather their herbs and then take it to the kitchen to make stuff with.
Oh my goodness.
Use it all together.
Such a fun event to do.
Tell us about you and your offerings. Like, what do you have multiple books? Share.
Yes. Okay. So I will say that one of the things that I've allowed myself to do is to get off of social media. So that was another, So I am, you can still find me at Little Green Dot. I'm not, showing up there. I'm really enjoying connecting with the newsletter. So if you come onto my website, littlegreendot.com, you can sign up for the newsletter. And that has been very enjoyable. And I also wrote a book. So it's 60 recipes, for where to begin. So once that shift happens where it's like, actually, I am interested in this idea that you can make skincare. Once you get there, then it's just like, there's amazing things you can make, So I've written a book of 60 recipes, all really simple, because what hasn't changed, as much as I've gone on, learned, and all the skills that I've learned and acquired, what hasn't changed is that I remember that feeling of just not being able to access the things that I wanted. Right. And so it's always important that wellness should feel accessible in terms of cost, in terms of time, in terms of, it should feel accessible. Most every ingredient you can get from your kitchen, from the supermarket. And so no kind of weird special ingredients, it's all really simple stuff, really good. And recipes that I've used throughout the years, and taught in classes and people have loved. So that's in the book, and it's sold in wherever books are sold, and I am now going to begin teaching more classes as well. So, when you join the newsletter, then you can find out as well, like when the next classes are.
Very good.
So yeah.
Okay. So you said you're not on social media. So Instagram is gone.
So so it's still there as if, just kind of.
You're just not active.
Yes. I just stopped sharing. It just wasn't, my world.
Yeah.
So I have stepped away, but I'm, it's interesting finding new ways again to reconnect, and I'm more interested in reconnecting again with the community in this area, this beautiful area where we live. I'm in Chapel Hill.
Yeah.
So I love the idea. I just actually purchased the house, so we're laying down roots.
Yeah.
And I have this vision of just, teaching workshops from my garden. I'm going to be growing a skincare garden.
Yes.
And so teaching workshops in a little shed. I'll have it outside and we'll do classes in person. But also, connecting with the community all over the world. And so doing online classes as well and gathering.
Yeah. This is such an important element to connect with the ground we are on. Yeah, and root is very important right now. And I love your future vision. I think that will be so beautiful. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your work. Thank you for being constant with it. I know it's so easy to passion in and back and passion in and just fall back with life events and whatever else. But through all your moves and everything, you've continued to put your work out there. And thank you so much for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, listen, when you put yourself out there and you're able to connect with like-minded people, it just fills you up and it's such a joy to connect with people who also share a passion for the plants and for nature and making things,
Yeah, it's just another element of the nourishment we all need.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Last thing I guess that I could do is ask you if you had any percolations or questions that came up in just talking to me that you wanted to ask me or that you were curious about.
Yeah. So I guess I'm curious to learn more about maybe what kind of skincare or recipes would kind of be of interest to you? Like what kind of things do you think about making?
Yeah. Because I have learned so much from you, I know that minimal is the best. Your skin doesn't want like a lot of overload all the time. And I think the thing that draws to me most with skincare are masks. And that's not necessarily something you do all the time. It's kind of like, maybe once a month. I don't know what would you say is a good spacing of masks? Is it once a week, once a month?
Yeah, I love this one because a big thing with natural skincare is obviously preservation, right? So if you make a fresh mask, you have to use it up quickly. What I started doing and teaching in my classes was how to make herbal powdered masks.
Yes.
So all you have to do is just kind of scoop it, into your hand or a bowl, mix it up with the water that's in your shower, and apply it, right?
Yeah.
And my absolute favorite, like hands down favorite skincare ingredient is rolled oats. It's in terms of a natural ingredient, it is one of the most well studied as well for skincare.
Yeah.
And it is oh God, I'm blanking on the name when it's recognized by the FDA as as a skin ingredient that it is inflammatory and emollient. So it's working. What I'm trying to say,
right?
Does it work? But you just rolled oats, you grind it into a powder, and it's now a flour.
Yeah.
And if you even just keep that in your shower or not in your shower, in your bathroom somewhere. That in itself, just try playing with that, just applying it onto your skin as like a skin wash and mask. It could just be the beginning,
Yes.
and then you can start to kind of customize it or get kind of creative with other ingredients that you put in.
Yeah, my absolute go-to mask, like that I've returned to so many times, is matcha powder and honey. So simple. Mix it up. I mean, you can even eat it if you need a boost.
Yeah. So I've worked with clients as well. This woman, she was experiencing adult acne.
Mm-hmm.
And so on top of basically taking her away off of all the products that she was using, and one of the things that we put in was a mask, honey masks every day.
Yeah.
And so what I taught her to do was to spritz her face with the hydrosol so that you dampen it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's easier to apply the honey then.
Yeah.
And when you apply the honey, and you want to do this before your shower, because honey is a humectant. It's going to draw moisture in, but if there's no moisture in the air, it's going to draw moisture out, right? So you want to do it in a like warm, steamy environment, like a shower or bath. Or if you have a high humid environment, then that's fine. But before a shower, it's so simple, right? And so the last thing you wash is your face. So that way it's had skin contact. She was actually able to clear up her acne. And it's the honey, and it's also not doing the other stuff. And, and the type of self-care she was giving herself. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I have yet to play with powdered options. I mean, you could put herbs in that with the oatmeal. You could do anything.
Herbs. One of my favorite herbs too is marshmallow root, because it feels like slippery, and here is about enjoyment, right?
Right.
You have a sense organ. It feels good, right?
Yes,
so marshmallow, some oats, whatever herb is calling to you at the time, whatever you're drinking, grind it up and add it to the mix, and
that's such a good idea. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely.
I've been so nourished.
Oh, good. Yay. So anyone can also email me at littlegreen.com. And so it's Militza@littlegreen.com, and my name is the spelling is Militza.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to link all of your stuff in the notes so people can find you with a click, which is very convenient. But thank you again for your time and for sharing your passion so much.
Thank you so much for the conversation.
Yeah.
It was so much fun, and so excited for what you're doing.
I really hope you enjoyed that episode. I really like her work. I love what she has to say about the skin. And one of the major things that always stood out to me with her work was just this return back to ourselves, that we don't need so many products and we don't need so much fuss. Our skin needs just basic love. And I loved what she had to say about hair as well, and using vinegars. Just such a rich return to kind of basics, right? Like managing our bodies with just the basics that nature gives us. And I just was so encouraged by what she shared. So I hope you were too. And I hope that you appreciated her rawness and sharing her life journey at the end, being so open and vulnerable. Such a beautiful thing to open and share our hearts with one another. So thank you for honoring her and her journey and sending her love in the depths of your heart for her life journey that she's on. As always, thank you for listening. If you have a desire to support the podcast, please scroll to the bottom of my homepage where you should find a donation link. And without further ado, enjoy, friends. Yo ai ai yo dia ya so ya tai ana yo ai oi itu ya ana yo ai rau ti au na yo i au ti tau ti a iu i o tai a ia i o tai a ia ia Ya so ni